Resuming debate, the honourable member for Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise in the House today to speak to Bill C-246, the Modernizing Animal Protections Act. And I want to start out, Mr. Speaker, by saying that before my life in this place, I was a full-time beef farmer. And I can tell you that myself and all the farmers that I know out there who are livestock farmers, they all have pets as well, dogs. I was no different. Nobody has more respect for animals than those people. And so, Mr. Speaker, I am speaking not just for myself today as a parliamentarian, but and not just the farmers in my riding of Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound, but for farmers everywhere, and also people who hunt, fish, trap. This is a bill that has them very concerned. So C-246, Mr. Speaker, is a reincarnation or reiteration of several other pieces of similar legislation that have come before this House over the years. And having been a member of Parliament since 2004, I can say that I've seen some variation of this bill in almost every Parliament that I've been a part of. It has been voted down every single time due to concerns that it goes too far and endangers legitimate animal use. And I will express these same concerns here today. The riding that I represent, Mr. Speaker, is a rural riding that's home to a lot of farmers, hunters, anglers, and trappers. And for constituents of Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound, animal use has always been a vital part of their everyday life. And for this reason, I will be speaking against the passage of Bill C-246 at second reading, as I feel that it would endanger the livelihood of many residents of Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound and across Canada, and possibly put an end to a number of farming, hunting, angling, and trapping traditions across Canada. I'd like to start by stating that I am fully supportive of legislation and initiatives that seek to promote better welfare for animals, and in full support of harsher penalties for those who willfully and intentionally do cruelty to animals. Now, I think, Mr. Speaker, that those who are knowingly cruel to animals, they should face the full force of the law. Nobody disputing that, and anybody that's opposed to this bill doesn't dispute that aspect of it. But in fact, last Parliament, I was pleased to vote in favour of Quanto's Law, which was a piece of legislation that enhanced legal protections for service animals of police agencies and the Canadian Armed Forces. Furthermore, I note that the bill contains provisions surrounding shark finning, which again, I am opposed to, but shark finning has been illegal in Canada since 1994. We shouldn't even be talking about it. There is no need. It's illegal already. Overall, Canada has very good animal welfare legislation at both the provincial and federal levels, but I am always open to discussing potential problem areas to ensure that animal welfare is upheld. These are not the measures that I have great concerns with, though, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to C-246, I'm specifically concerned with 4 specific sections of the bill. The first is a section of the bill that moves the provisions in the criminal code surrounding animal cruelty out of the section dealing with offences against certain property and moves this to the section dealing with offences against persons. This could be the start of a very dangerous trend. Essentially, moving animal cruelty provisions to the section of the criminal code this section of the criminal code begins to suggest that animals are entitled to the full rights of human beings and have the right to be represented in court. And I find this deeply troubling, as it could be the beginning of the end of hunting, farming, angling, and trapping. And, you know, Mr. Speaker, to put this in perspective, it doesn't mean, to not put them on the same grounds that we don't respect animals. But I'll tell you, if I got to, choose one of my family, one of my grandkids, or between that and my dog, as far as the same rights, I think there's only one obvious way that you're gonna choose, and I hope I never have to come for that. But this bill could do that. Furthermore, C-246 contains a number of new provisions that redefine what constitutes criminal activities against animals. The first of which is the inclusion of a recklessly test that would be included alongside the willfully test. What this means is that willfully causing harm or suffering to an animal that has always been illegal. But this bill would add a new host of actions that would fall under the test of recklessly causing harm or suffering. The problem here is that it is not clearly defined as to what constitutes the recklessness. Would hitting an animal with your car constitute reckless harm or suffering? We've all hit animals, or most of us have, if you drive in rural Canada. So would hitting an animal, cause this reckless harm or suffering? I don't think so. It's not intentional, but accidents happen. These are the loopholes that make this bill so dangerous. I would not want to see anyone slapped with a criminal record for hitting a coon or a deer, whatever, with their car. Now, my greatest concern is with the following provision, which I will read here. Under section 182.2, subsection 1, that everyone commits an offense who willfully or recklessly kills an animal, or being the owner permits an animal to be killed brutally or viciously, regardless of whether the animal dies immediately. To me, this opens up a very serious can of worms that would result in the criminalization of farming, hunting, angling, and trapping in Canada. The words brutally and viciously are used here to describe what could constitute an offense against animals under the criminal code. A major problem here is that there is no definition, again, of what is meant by brutally or viciously. Furthermore, these terms are completely brand new to any sort of legislation related to animal cruelty here in Canada, in the United Kingdom, in Australia, and in the U.S. Further still, no Canadian court has ever interpreted this language, so we don't know how this will play out once this legislation comes into force. I have heard from a great number of constituents and stakeholder groups that this has the potential to criminalize any sort of animal use in Canada. The language is simply too vague. It's unacceptable. For example, Mr. Speaker, the group PETA states that animals are not ours to kill, eat, wear, experiment upon, or exploit for entertainment. Now, for me, it would seem as though PETA would certainly claim that slaughtering cattle for beef production would constitute a brutal or vicious act against animals. There goes our agriculture industry. They would most certainly state that shooting a deer, moose, turkey, you name it, it would be a brutal or vicious act against animals. There goes recreational hunting in Canada. A fish with a lure in its mouth, gone is the recreational fishery. A muskrat or beaver in a trap, there goes our trapping and fur trade. I think you see the point that I'm trying to make here, Mr. Speaker. Because the provisions in this bill are so open to interpretation, and because the interpretations out there are so wide-sweeping, we could see the end of many different traditions and practices related to animal use in Canada. While I do not think that it was the intent of the sponsor of the bill to criminalize these activities, it is most certainly a major problem of the legislation. Furthermore, a simple solution would have been to clearly state a list of activities that are exempt from the provisions in the legislation. This list should include ranching, farming, hunting, fishing, trapping, and medical research. This would ensure that these legal activities would not result in the handling out of criminal records for otherwise lawful activities. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to discuss the host of proposed changes that have been sent to me by the sponsor and that many stakeholders have been talking about. I do appreciate the efforts made by the sponsor to enhance the bill and respond to concerns from the farming, hunting, angling, and trapping communities. However, there's no guarantee that these amendments will be proposed and adopted by the committee. Therefore, at second reading, as the bill is currently drafted, I cannot support it. I did take some interest in what my colleague, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice, said when he spoke to this bill at the first hour of second reading. He stated, "Animal cruelty is an important social issue that deserves a comprehensive legislative response. It needs broad public consultation to allow us to get this right. The best way forward is in the review of the criminal code that will take place in the future. This way we can hear and attempt to address the concerns of Canadians engaged in legitimate activities of hunting, fishing, ranching, medical research, etc." While I do not always agree with my honourable colleague on all issues, on this issue he has hit the nail right on the head. We need to consult with those who have expressed concerns about the bill so that we can ensure that we protect animal welfare in Canada in a way that does not criminalize traditions that rely on animal use. And in closing, I know I'm almost out of time, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say to the member, I truly do, that he tried to fix this after the fact. but he could have drafted this bill with the right kind of consultation in advance. I'd be happy to work with him on something like that, and I think there's probably other members of my caucus. So in fact, I know there is that would work, but we just cannot support it in the way it is. Thank you very much.
Here, here.